Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about Us, the new Jordan Peele horror movie of 2019. Warning, this has spoilers for the movie Us. Okay, so I'm not going to bury the lead here. This is a 5 out of 5 star movie. I absolutely love this movie. I thought it was fantastic. It's definitely the best horror movie I have seen since Get Out, and it's certainly the best horror movie of 2019 so far. I'm a huge fan. Okay, so I have to do some disclosure here. I'm a huge Jordan Peele super fan. So I'm like a fan of everything about Jordan Peele. So I'm a huge fan of Key and Peele. I've watched every episode, and I've watched many of the skits many times. Right? So I'm like, I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peele's comedic work. I'm also a fan of Get Out. Get Out won an Oscar. Jordan Peele is now an Oscar award-winning director, and I'm clearly a huge fan of Get Out. I think Get Out was a historically important horror film. I also think Us is a historically important horror film as well. But I kind of want to explain the full shape of my Jordan Peele fandom, right? Excuse me. So I'm a fan of his director work. I'm literally a fan of Jordan Peele's family, right? So Jordan Peele is married to Chelsea Peretti. Chelsea Peretti plays Gina, the secretary on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And my entire family watches Brooklyn Nine-Nine together. It's really wonderful. Nine-Nine? Like, we're huge fans of it, right? And so Gina's one of the best things on that show. So, and then Chelsea Peretti and Jordan Peele recently had a child together, right? So I'm excited that there's, this new person in the world who has all the comedic genius and the writing skills of Chelsea Peretti and Jordan Peele. So, I'm looking forward to the films that Jordan Peele's child will make, right? And the content that their child will make when they grow up and once they've, gone through film school or whatever they wish to make, right? Now, if they decide not to go into that, it's totally okay. I get that. But I am president of the Jordan Peele fan club, not literally, but quite figuratively, right? Okay, so got that out of the way. I absolutely love this movie. I thought it was really amazing. So I want to just kind of explain when I watched the movie, this is the story I experienced, okay? So it is the story of a family, right? And I can tell, I'm not going to tell you the names of all the characters in the film because either you haven't seen the movie or you've seen it once, because I saw this on premiere night, right? I'm just going to use their iconic what role they are in the family, right? Now, Lupita Nyong'o was in this. She was fantastic. All the acting in this was very good, except I'll tell you the one person I thought didn't bring out, well, you know what, maybe it was just the role that he needed to play was this specific person, and I didn't like the role, not liking the actor. Regardless, so basically it's the story of a traditional family, a mother, a father, a daughter, and a son, okay? And the mother is Lupita Nyong'o, and then all the other characters, they're together as a family, right? And they go on vacation to this summer house, right? They then meet at the beach this other family, right? And that other family is a family of 4 as well, okay? And that family is Peggy from Mad Men, right? That's the actress played, I think her name is Elizabeth Moss, and she played Peggy in Mad Men. I'm going to refer to her as Peggy. She has this super vanilla, cardboard cutout of a husband. I'm just going to call him Vanilla because that's what he was in the film, very vanilla. And then they have 2 twin daughters, and I'll call them the twins. All right, now, with those 8 characters, you really have the core of the film, okay? And so this is the story of a family going on vacation to their summer home, and then hanging out with another family that they're friends with. They're friends with the whole family. right? And then the tethered emerge. Okay, so the tethered are, and again, this is the story I experienced, right? Other people might say, oh no, this was something else. All right, so the tethered are clones that were made by the government, and the tethered come out from all the underground facilities like sewers, train areas, government facilities that were literally built under the ground, all this kind of. So the tethered come out, and what the tethered are is they are clones that were created by the government, and the reason they were created was to control people on. So they were created below world, literally in the underground structures in America that actually exist, right? And so they were created in the underworld. I'm just going to call all those structures the underworld, and they were specifically made to take over and control the people of the overworld, right? So this was a government project that, and then that government project went bad. It went very, very wrong, right? And what they found was, and what these government creators found, was that they could create a perfect example of a human being in everything but, they could make the mind, they could make the body, they could make the mind fairly okay, and they had no ability to create the soul, right? So these tethered are these broken, monstrous human beings, monstrous internally, monstrous emotionally and spiritually, right? Because mankind doesn't have the ability to create life. Mankind doesn't have the ability to create life in any way but its naturally given way that it's able to create life, right? And if they do, then the creatures that come out of that are essentially creatures, right? Like, so, and this would be essentially cloning, right? So, like, I'm aware of in vitro fertilization. Of course, in vitro fertilization, you're able to create human beings the way we are, right? They're not monstrous. I want to make that clear, right? But these creatures that the government tried to create by making a copy of another person, a doppelganger, they are broken, right? They're okay. They're perfect in body. They're broken in mind, and they are utterly bereft in spirit, right? Like, they're just, their souls they're not even there, right? So these tethered are really quite monstrous creatures, right? Who what they do is they murder, right? So, like, and they have these horrible base instincts and these base natures that are not really able to be controlled. Okay, now in the story, the tethered come out from below ground, and all the doppelgangers immediately attack their original, right? And then after they attack their original, they form up and get in the same configuration as Hands Across America, which was like from 1986, I think, maybe the mid-80s. So, in many ways, the movie functions a little bit like a zombie film, but with themes of identity and duality. And then, rather than, these creatures just killing people nonstop, once they've killed their doppelganger, and maybe a few others, they go and they stand in the formation of Hands Across America, right? And there's one last thing. Lupita Nyong'o, her character name in the movie is 80. She is the mother, right? She discovers that the reality is she is not, we think in the movie, for the longest time in the movie, for the majority of the film, we think that she is the mother of that family, right? And that she's a normal human being, but she's not. She is a tether, right? And it also goes to the question of nature versus nurture, because when she was 5 years old, her doppelganger, the actual human, came down into the substructures, right, into like the sewer areas, and she and then the tethered girl replaced her on top, right? So the real girl grew up with the Tethered and became the queen of the Tethered, right? And also orchestrated their attack and their Hands Across America formation, right? And then the Tethered girl became a real girl, like almost like Pinocchio, right? You know, like she became an actual human because she was taught to speak and taught to dance, which then tells us that all the Tethered, right, it's quite possible that all the Tethered could have been fine if they had just been raised as normal human beings, right? Which definitely, now there's a question there. It's not a statement, it's a question mark. Like, could the Tethered have been something other than killing monsters? We don't know the answer to that. 80 is absolutely a clue that that's the case, but at the end she's a killing monster, right? So you're kind of like, maybe they are just killing monsters, right? And so they're a monster who kills, not killing monsters. Wow, there's a lot going on in this. Like, and that the movie it's fine art. Like, you know, you can go into this film and you can understand it. Now, and actually you can come out of it with a personal understanding, that's what great art is. You look at something and you come out of it with a personal understanding. Maybe you understand yourself better. Maybe you understand others better. Maybe you understand the creator better, right? And not just the creator of the art, but maybe you understand the creator of humanity better, right? Like, and that's here. That's what Us is. It's a deep, deep film, right? Now, the other thing is, what is the Hands Across America, right? Well, a lot of people have watched this movie, and a lot of people I haven't heard any good explanations of what this is. I think I understand what it is. So the Tethered killed their doppelganger, and the reason why is they all had to live in the sewers and in these substructures, right? In subway areas and in government facilities that were built underground, and they had to eat raw rabbit, right? So their lives were terrible, absolutely terrible. They were mistreated, and it's quite likely that their creators, these government creators, absolutely never really loved them in any way. So they never received any love, right? So they're going to have very understandable rage toward their doppelgangers who are up above. You know, you got the Eloi and the Morlocks, right? So the Tethered live these terrible lives, and the untethered, the people above ground, right? They live these wonderful lives in the sun, right? So it's very understandable that there'd be a huge amount of rage within every Tethered to kill their doppelganger, and so that's what they do, right? But all of these doppelgangers, right? Their red jumpsuits, their scissors, right? Their shackles, their ability to fight. All of this was given to them by the training that Queen 80, the 80, queen of the real 80, the untethered 80, gave the Tethered, because she was with them and she trained them. And she orchestrated this statement, right? And so I think what 80 wanted to do was she wanted to allow the Tethered to have their revenge on the untethered, right? Because they had been wronged, right? But then also 80, the untethered, the queen of the Tethered, right? She really wants, she came from the above world. She had a mother and a father that she loved, right? And I think she's like, after you kill your doppelganger, and some of you will fail and some of you will succeed, we're going to do this Hands Across America thing, which that was something that was very special to 80, right? That was a sign of love and unity and commonality for 80, right? And so she has them kill and then go into this formation of peace, because that's what she wants, right? She wants to give them some justice, right? Now, I'm not saying that is justice. I'm saying it's her form of justice. But then she also doesn't want them to destroy the entire world. She wants them to have a kind of a stopgap, saying, don't burn this whole world to the ground, right? And then she tells them to go into this formation of Hands Across America, because it was this formation that was really important in her heart and her mind, right? And so that's the full story of Us, right? And that's the movie I viewed, right? And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of fine art. It's really incredible. I'm really Yeah. So it's a really incredible piece, right? It's just a fantastic film. All right. The movie does really get into identity and duality, right? And I think from a duality perspective, the tethered and the untethered represent the two sides of any human being, right? So, and it's really interesting that Jordan Peele is coming to this understanding, right? So, I'm an evangelical Christian, so I believe that people definitely have a duality. We have, well, actually, I think evangelical Christians absolutely have duality. We have this part where we are striving to be like Christ and to be loving, right? But we also understand that we are imperfect creatures and we are fundamentally broken, and that our base nature is to harm people, right? Like, what is the base nature of humanity? Is it good or is it bad? It's bad, right? Like, basically, we need to strive to do good. Humans do not do good naturally, right? And I think Jordan Peele is absolutely exploring duality. He has a little bit of a different view of duality than I would have, but he's recognizing, like, within me there is light and there is darkness, right? And so the tethered perfectly show that there is light and there is darkness, right? And one of the things is our darkness is wow, this movie is so deep, right? I was about to say our darkness is trying to destroy our light, but 80 was untethered, right? 80, the queen of the tethered, is untethered. She's the light, right? And she comes to destroy the darkness. She comes to destroy the dark part of herself, right? And I think that that's a better way to understand duality. Is our good part is trying to destroy the bad, and our bad part is trying to destroy the good, right? Each one of us is a hurricane of emotions and spirit, and we have to strive to be untethered, right? To be free and to be able to do good and show love and show kindness, right? The other thing is, that's a deep, deep message, right? And also, just so you're aware, I think there's a lot of people who are not getting this movie, and if you're seeing people who are giving this movie, lower ratings, like, that says more about them than, somebody not liking us says more about them than it does about Jordan Peele, right? This isn't, there's a question of like, oh, is this going to be a good movie? No, that question doesn't stand anymore, right? Here's the thing. Jordan Peele is a brilliant creator, right? He has already, Key and Peele is, very much accepted as one of the funniest television shows ever made, right? And both critically and commercially, it's done incredibly well, right? So then so if that's there, right, then Get Out won an Oscar and was both critically and commercially successful, right? So there isn't really a question of, is Us a good movie? That question was asked and answered on day one, right, which was yesterday. Yes, I actually think that was answered before day one. And the reality is, Jordan Peele is a trustable creator. You're going to get something to enjoy, right? It's not a question of if it's a good movie. It's a question of if it's a great movie or an amazing movie, or if it was the very best movie of that year, which I think Us will be in contention for an Oscar. If it's not, again, it's going to say a lot more about the Academy than Jordan Peele. I really feel that the movie really, really, really dives into some deep pools to bring up meaning, right? And so the other thing that it really gets into is nurture versus nature, right? Which is a classic question, is saying, do we achieve what we achieve because within us there is good stock, right? Or do we achieve what we achieve because someone comes along and helps us and teaches us and interacts with us and nurtures us, right? And there's a lot of answers to this. Some people are like, it's all nature, right? If you have good stock, you're going to come out on top, even if you're not nurtured well. And by the way, boy, the nurturing question is an incredibly deep question, right? So I'll just give the range. So some people are like, you need good stock, and if your nurture is terrible, you're still going to do well. Arguably, like, one of the things I've been reading, I'm not positive of this, but I think my understanding is a perfect example is this Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill's father was an absolute monster. He treated him atrociously, right? Winston Churchill was forged like a sword and became one of the most achieving human beings that has ever lived, right? So he had terrible nurture, but then it brings up the question of, did he have good nature, and all that success came from his nature, right? And then you have nurture, right? And there are absolutely so there's this question of, if you did not have good nature, right? If you came from, boy, I guess this is really problematic. The question of nature versus nurture is really, really precarious, right? I'm not convinced I understand everything that's involved in the question of nurture versus nature. To me, I really want to kind of reject the question wholeheartedly and say, here's a perfect, well, actually, I guess I could just use the film, right? So, 80, right, Untethered, is created by her mother and her father, and they are good people, right? They're actually people and 80 is born from love. Like, they love each other, and 80 is their child, right? Then Red is the name of the Untethered, right? But they switch, right? Because, like, Red is the actual 80. And, yeah, it's so complicated. All right, so, but here's the thing. The actual tethered child, who ends up being 80, right? And Red is so 80, Queen of the Tethered, is actually an untethered, right? And then Red, oh man, holy cows. And then 80, untethered 80, was actually created by the government, right? And she was fed raw rabbit, and she was clearly had horrible upbringing, right? Like, she wasn't, that doesn't work either, because she was raised by 80's parents, right? Like, so that's my entire point. Like, I think people are going to be unpacking this movie for years to come. And I think the question of nature versus nurture is a very interesting question. But just the idea of good stock, what on earth does good stock mean? We're all human beings. We're all of the same value, right? Now, I will say this. If you were created to control people, I think that's a bad source. And your nurture is without question going to be bad nurture, right? Like, I don't think our government or any government on the planet has any ability to raise a well-nurtured human being. Like, that is set in stone in my head, right? But the fact that this movie brings into question nature versus nurture at these levels is incredible. This is a work of art that I think will be unpacked, will be explored for decades to come, and maybe centuries to come, right? And I also am super excited because I think Jordan Peele, this is his second film, and I think he's locked in. I think he really wants to work hard and be a good director, and I am excited for 10 or 20 movies of really amazing material. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peele. I think Us is fantastic. I really, really love that film. I highly recommend you see it right away. See it multiple times. That's my review of Us. I'd love to know what you think of Us. Please let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful day.